All right, let's begin the conversation from here in the studio. And I'd like to begin with Dr. Casmir Ifeanyi for obvious reasons. When we talk diagnosis, well, you don't do a lot of diagnosis without the labs. And so I'd like to ask, how common is it in your line of duty to misdiagnose or to get it wrong?
Thank you very much. It's quite common in low and medium income countries compared to developed climes.
Like Nigeria, right?
Like Nigeria. You see, if we look at data from the World Health Organization, they would want to categorize wrong diagnosis to be prevalent as much as between 5 to 15%. And they had to cascade it down to also say that in primary health care, it is a lot higher, closer to 15%, and in inpatient care in developed climate like the US, it's as low as 0.7%. But overall in the United States, there's a death attributable to wrong diagnosis of close to 12 million per annum. So let's come back. You have asked how close it is. I mean, how common it is with what we do in Nigeria. If we come close to Nigeria, you'll find out that the truth of the matter is that wrong diagnosis is common as the diagnosis of malaria. It's common as is common in the diagnosis of tuberculosis.
Why?
It's very common and a lot more rampant in diseases like cancer, where we have data, as scanty as it may be, that close to 70% of cancer cases are misdiagnosed. And of course, we have instances we can reference. As it were, most of them had gone to the great beyond. Somebody was being treated in Nigeria here for a pulmonary condition, respiratory condition, only to go abroad, and they found out that he had cancer. Some other person was also treated here, very prominent Nigerians, also to go abroad. First was told he had no cancer. That was abroad. Later, that individual died of cancer. So the point is this. You have asked why. We must flesh out this wrong diagnosis into three. First is misdiagnosis, MIS diagnosis. Second is delayed diagnosis. Third is missed diagnosis, MISSED. Now, miss means I identify incorrectly what is wrong with a patient. Misdiagnosis. Delay. It takes protracted time, an unusual time, for us to arrive at a correct diagnosis. Probably the patient presented late, or we do not have facilities or capacities to make that kind of diagnosis. And then we have MISSED, missed diagnosis. In that instance, a patient is coming and you are telling the patient nothing is wrong with you. You can't really make a diagnosis about what is wrong with that particular patient. So I needed to flesh out this because they look alike. Now, one reason why wrong diagnosis is preponderant in Nigeria has to do with state of health infrastructure. It has to do with capacity for diagnosis, which will now speak to human resource and material and equipment. And then the monster prevalent in Nigeria, for instance, that monster is called quackery. When you have charlatans in medical laboratory services, providing medical laboratory services, for instance, you are certain to have preponderance of wrong diagnosis. These are people who have less to no training about providing such service, who are not certificated and licensed to provide that kind of service. You have school dropouts. You have people who have studied some related biological science courses who are justly to come begin to test patient samples to provide laboratory care. When you have all that, and what I have categorized into two, quack, when you talk about quack, I talk about facultative quack, and I talk about obligate quack. So these ones are the ones fueling wrong diagnosis, making it worse in Nigeria. Who are facultative quacks? I study zoology. And because in the course of my training, of course, there will be some aspect of laboratory. And so I leave school and I want to come work in National Hospital Laboratory. All right? I studied pharmacy. I'm a pharmacist. I have a shop. Or I'm a nurse. I have a nursing home. And so a patient comes, rather than refer the patient to go to a proper medical laboratory for testing, I try to juggle this testing. They are facultative because they are, by reason of their training, they have a semblance exposure to what happens in medical laboratory, and so they have adopted to practice their profession. So they are part of those who fuel wrong diagnosis. They are not obligate. People who have nothing to do with healthcare profession, but who, because they feel that there's a lot of gain, in parentheses, holding themselves forth to the public, and of course providing services for a fee, as medical laboratory scientists or providing medical lab services. So the cause of wrong diagnosis is multifactorial. And I believe that in the course of this discussion, we will speak more to them. But for the laboratory, quacks, inadequate training, poor laboratory services. So if laboratory services, medical laboratory services are not strengthened in Nigeria, pursuant to the Maputo Protocol of 2008, we will continue to tell tales in Nigeria.